And a very good evening, everybody, and a welcome to a Lyceum evening coming to you from the Paul Spiritualist Church on the south coast of the UK. Very warm welcome. Look, he's here. He's not in a box. He's here. He might be in a box by the end of the night, but anyway. We're in the box room. There we go. Lovely Stephen Mayger. Stephen's with us. We had our first session of our legacy course today. And to say I'm happy is an underestimate because it was everything I thought and more. So thank you, Stephen.
My pleasure.
Absolutely wonderful. But we're here tonight to have a little talk. Please, if you've got any questions or anything, please bring them into the room. As always, we will endeavour to give you what we think is the right answer, but obviously the right answer is up to you. It's what sits with you. Lots of things were said today. I'm still processing, but something was said today, and it was about in previous epochs of shared knowledge, but we're now getting to the point of we don't have the shared knowledge because we should know it all ourselves.
Something like that, yeah.
If you look at very good. I think I've just failed the exam, everyone.
Was it the precession of the equinoxes and how
yes.
We've all sort of evolved according to, so if you Google the age of Taurus, then the age of Aries, then the age of Pisces, and look at the meaning behind it, you'll see this kind of development of the character of the human soul collectively. Now we're entering into this new age of Aquarius. It's about community, technological innovation, and everything that we seem to be going through at the moment. And it all relates to the story of the mythologies that have evolved over the years, and how they synchronize with the psychology that we, especially as spiritual people on our path. Today's the beginning of the spiritual year, so it's a good time to look at the astrological significances and how we as different people can find this collective progress that we're going through. And it's kind of there in the stars as well as above, so below. So it seems that we're on this cycle that we go through, and we're experiencing this part of the cycle where we're being more spiritual. And like I was saying, we're not in the law of the jungle anymore. We're using spiritual laws to guide our future. We're creating laws and structures. Sometimes rules are there to be guidelines, but sometimes laws are there to model our human character to the person we want to be.
Yeah.
And that's spiritual development.
The thing that captured my imagination, because you went on to say, I'm not putting words in your mouth, about when we were talking about writing books and things, because there's no more to learn because it's already there, but we just haven't learned what we've already got.
Yeah.
That absolutely fascinated me because of the approach with the legacy course is to reawaken what we already know. This is what I've said tonight, is like, what do we miss? And we're very quick and very glib we were talking about energy. And, you pick up certain things and just go, oh, that's the energy. And that's it. There's no searching. There's no, okay, well, so if that is the energy, why is that the energy? Where does that energy come from? How is it presented? Why am I receptive to it? It should be spawning so many questions, but it's not. We tend to very glibly dismiss stuff.
Yeah.
A white, my favourite, a white feather.
Yeah.
We have a lot of white feathers at Paul Church, and people keep, look, it's a white feather, it's your angel. I said, no, it's the two seagulls who are having rumpy pumpy on the roof right over the front door. But we do, don't we? We make, when I say we make light, I don't mean that in a negative way or a conscious way, but we're just very quick to assign an explanation to something and then we move on. Whereas to me, everything, this is why I don't get pulled into other esoteric practices, because I study spiritualism and there's more than a lifetime's study of spiritualism. So I don't want to keep wandering off into sound therapy, healing energy, things that you just think, why
I
do you
think
not focus on what you're doing?
I think they complement.
Oh, very much.
But when it comes to, like you see with the literature of spiritualism, books were written up until post World War II and beyond, up until about the 80s. You saw these books that were dealing with the philosophy, questioning, and it, on the development. I'm thinking of like Harry Edwards, pretty serious writers. Maurice Barbanel, obviously, it's the post-war era. Pre-war, we've got quite a few more esoteric spiritualists like Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, people like that, who really, they had all these other influences that they brought to spiritualism. And Emma Hardinge Britten as well. She was also a member of the Theosophical Society. So she brought a lot of that wisdom into spiritualism. And we got these books that were written for a period of time. And since the sort of more modern era, most of the books are more biographies. And I did wonder why no one is really writing books that are pushing the boundaries of spiritualism in the way that we used to. And I suppose the simple answer is we've got so much literature, we're still digesting it, and with that just shows the wealth of spiritualism. So in our legacy program, I gave a little suggested reading list. Some of it was to do with the some of the other subjects we talked about. But I included a few spiritualist books that, although they're not uncommon in spiritualism, they don't get as much of a mention. So when we talk about Sir Arthur Findlay, you see the Psychic Stream a lot, and there's the Rock of Truth. And the Rock of Truth is really interesting. It's been a while since I read it, but he's gone to the effort of trying to work out. He begins talking about the different layers of the Earth's atmosphere, as though different dimensions exist. And he's thinking, he's speculating, he's asking questions of spirit through mediumship. He's talking to scientists he knows. He had access to some very, intelligent, incredible people and all the best mediums around. So his philosophy, he's an expert. He's a deep thinker. And although this book isn't exactly overlooked, I think it's a book that doesn't quite get enough exposure. And maybe it's not all correct, but it engages the mind and thought. And then you've got The University of Spiritualism by Harry Bonington. Again, it's not exactly uncommon in spiritualism, but it's such a wealth of information. And then the higher spiritualism, I can't remember, someone Leonard, it's just fantastic books that really engage in the philosophy and spiritualism, asking and answering questions that we're still asking and answering today, because mediumship is an experience and we're experiencing maybe in a different way, but the fundamentals and the principles still apply. And so it's I find I go back over these books again and again, and each time it's like I'm reading it for the first time and I've got a new perspective. So I think with that, we're digesting this wealth that we've got, and for me, that's kind of where I lean. For a lot of people, they might want to read more about the physical phenomena. And so there are plenty of books that talk about that we've still got, because physical phenomena is not as common today. But the physical phenomena that has happened has been very well recorded. So there's still a lot to learn from it. There's still a lot to debate and as a talking point. So it's, let's have a revival like you're doing with the services of probably let's go back and look at these books again. What have we missed? What can we add to what we know now? Because again, you don't always read the same book when you read it again.
Yeah, that's true. Very true. Naughty Belinda, she's terrible. No Tibetan singing bowls for you then. I enjoy sound there. I enjoy a gong bath. I love crystal bowls. What I was saying is I don't want to get stuck on the loop because I want to know how things work and how they're put together and what's their capabilities and what's their potential. So this is why I don't invest and water down what I'm doing into chasing after all these different things because, as I say, for me, there is more than enough within spiritualism that keeps me well and truly occupied and thinking and revelations. We have our little epiphanies, don't we? I love it. I love an epiphany. I had one today. Something was said and it just came to my mind. I want to recall it and I don't want to forget it because I loved it. And it was, the noisome mind looks for fault. The peaceful mind enjoys what it sees. And it was just in relation to just an offhand comment that came out of the ether there. And I thought, I love that. I love those little moments where things click, fall together, they gel. And they may only be applicable to that moment. But some things aren't. They are, because that saying is really going to stick with me now.
Mind you, it's a bit like we said about theatres, mediums of theatres. And it's like, well, where do these people just suddenly come from if we're not getting them in the churches? And so I was talking to someone about something very different. And it's like when you go to the cinema and you watch a film, when you walk out, they advertise all these other films that are going to be on. So regular theatre goers are going to see a mediumist book there and go, oh, that'd be really interesting. And they typically won't be from spiritualism. So we're making the assumption that these people that are going to the theatres are all spiritualists. But, it's their theatre goers who are now being opened up to spiritualism where they probably wouldn't have gone looking for it themselves. And so, you think about what positive thing that is, because we're always looking at, well, how is it that we can fill these theatres but not the churches? And it's like, well, these are theatre goers and this is just something different for them. And that explains a lot. So let's take advantage of it.
It's a totally different strata of people because, and I'm guilty of this, when we're doing the advertising, it's all things spiritual events, blah, 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 spiritual. But if you haven't got a predilection for anything spiritual, I can put out 1,000 posts and these people are never going to see it. That's really interesting. Anyway, Elaine Bevin. My goodness, she's got all technical. How wonderful. And a quick hello to everybody saying hi. Thank you. Wonderful to see so many people. Lovely Eva. Emily's, how are you, darling? Esmeralda, thank you. What you were on tonight, which is always good. But Elaine asked a question or a statement here. Sorry, I've got a cat that's getting uppity. Too many mediums today don't push the boundaries of their own knowledge. We should constantly seek to learn more, know more, experience more. That is so true. That is so true. I see time and time again people. I think people, when they come into spiritualism, especially if we're talking about evidential mediumship, they project a level they want to get to. So I want to be able to stand up on a platform and get messages. So if you do put in the work, if you do put in the time, if you do put in the energy, and you end up standing on the platform, you're there where you wanted to be, and then it stops.
They're like a plateau.
Yeah.
I'm happy here. This is where I want to be.
Well, I said I want to be a platform medium. I'm a platform medium. Ta-da! And it's like, because on the number of workshops and courses here, I mean, all various things, some on the mechanics of mediumship, some more on the philosophical side. Today's opened up a whole new wealth of interest. But I don't see many platform mediums signing up for these courses because I'm there.
Yeah. But
I've achieved it. I'm exactly where I wanted to be. And I'm just thinking, I had it once, and I know I've shared this before. I was working at a church, and I was relaying this communication to a lady, and I stopped and I went, "Have I worked with you before?" And she went, "No." And I went, "Well, this is really odd because this feels like it's more coming from my memory rather than a communication." So I got home. "Oi, what's going on?" And the answer was very short and simple, which I like, is you're not advancing your mediumship.
Yeah.
And I went, "Oh my God, that made perfect sense." I'd gotten to the level, so I was just rehashing that same energy.
I think we all get a little bit guilty of that when we first kind of get there, because we're just like hanging on the seat of our pants going, "Oh God, I hope I get through it like the last one. The last one wasn't too bad. Hopefully," because we're just second guessing ourselves. And I think once you can do it, it's hard to push yourself further with a lot of things. Once it's like any qualification, like in the building industry, you got NVQ 2 and 3. And that just an extra year, that extra little bit of study opens up higher paid jobs for you. You'll be a foreman rather than a well-paid operative, but now you could be a better paid foreman because of that extra year, that extra effort that you put in. And it's very easy to get to the level 2 and start getting paid enough money that, it's a lot more than you got as an apprentice, and you're nearly there. But just that extra year, and you would end up opening up the foreman jobs and the organisational jobs, and more experience, more money, and probably more interesting. And plus, you're not going to be on the tools all your life, So it's it always say,
an office.
well, one of the things, if I went back, that extra year at college, because as soon as I got the level 2 and I could get paid, I did what everyone else did, and I went off and got paid an adult's wage, enjoyed it, and forgot to do that extra year. That would have opened up more. But I mean, I very quickly got into doing that extra year, just doing something else, because I realised, well, I didn't do that extra year, but I had a good job offer. And that job offer then was going to be studying something else a bit deeper. So I did do that in the end. But I see so many people on site quite happy just getting paid the man's wage, but they're not. That extra year would have just got them that little bit further.
Yeah.
But it was just enough to get them on site and going and earning a good wage. But it's just then they get to the point where they're like, "Well, I'm kind of stuck on the tools now because I didn't do that extra year, and I can't be bothered to go back and do it now. So I might as well carry on as I am," and I see that a lot, which is fine for a lot of people. They're happier like that, because you must know this from your career. Sometimes people can be promoted out of a job that's suited for them into a role that isn't.
Yeah.
And just because they were there longer and they know the job well, they're really good as a site manager, but not great as a contracts manager. It might be more money, but they were so good as a site manager, they'd be happier like that. It's suited for them. So we all find our niche in life, but often it means doing that extra year.
That's really interesting. Yeah, and I like that line, just do that extra year. Because for me personally, my expression of this is that it's sad when you just see people just they've set that intent, they've set that goal, they've got there, and that's it. I'm here. Okay? With me, I'm going, right, I'm here. What's next?
Yeah.
I suppose it's just, I'm not making yourself to be wonderful,
I think
but
it
it's
depends.
just different outlooks.
Maybe very different to my example of the building industry, because it's not exactly a hobby or a vocation. Whereas spiritualism, I have to work during the day doing something else, and I do my spiritualism in the evenings and weekends. So I'm not going down the serious path of accreditation because I'm too busy. It takes a commitment, and I'm not. I started with the SNU and the healing, and I was doing coursework, and it all just became a little bit much that both my work life, my private life, and my spiritualist life was suffering. So I just had to withdraw from it.
Yeah.
Time and circumstances. I went to a church that was independent of the SNU for a little while, and just things lapsed, and I just got so busy. So I'm not going down that avenue, but it's very similar. Same with the NVQ. If you don't just do that extra, you can get the platform accreditation, isn't it?
Yeah.
That gets you on the platform and working. But then, if that's just enough, some people are driven to go on and get this CSNU, isn't it?
Yeah.
But then, how many go on to get the DSNU? And really, so it's the same as any walk of life. There are going to be people who are suited to taking it to another level, and some people who they're going to be absolutely fine plateauing with their mediumship because it suits them for a number of reasons. Maybe like me, they're busy at work and they're just glad that they can, we all feel obliged that if we can do mediumship, we should, because we've seen the positive effects that we have. So it's even though I'm busy with my work life, I don't want to give up this part of my life because this is my life. Work is also my life, and I have to just balance the two.
Yeah, true. And I've always got to remind myself, because put myself up the notes, this is my life. So everything focuses around spiritualism. You just said something there which actually made me go, yes, Lawrence, listen to that. I go out and work. Yes, I get that. Lovely Esmeralda. She says, why think that we are there when life goes on and there's eternal learning? And is it about us or about spirit? And where they can or want us to go, of course, there is always free will.
Yeah. Well, that was we had a little chat earlier in between sessions about free will. And it's one of those things, it's a paradox. We have free will, yet at the same time, we have no free will at all. Yeah. We're only wearing the clothes we're wearing because of the weather. The weather chose the clothes we're wearing more than we did. We might have just gone with the colour or the fabric, and, your life is driven by your needs, and then you've got your wants, and you somehow find a balance of the two. So it's just a paradox. Both are true at the same time. You have free will, yet you have none.
Very true. My version of spiritual free will is you can do it now or do it later. That's as far as free will goes. Do it today or do it tomorrow? Which one?
I remember asking my mum what's for dinner. She's like, chicken or rice? Or rice and chicken. And it's like, okay, I'll go with the first one.
Elaine joins in here. Sometimes we have to look outside the box. The rise of science linking with phenomena and metaphysical mediumship fills me with great excitement. We are finally accepting that we are working with vibration and energy, which takes many forms, not just spirit. So our mediumship has to expand to even begin to understand how this happens.
Absolutely.
You were singing your praises earlier on, Elaine. Now look. You've induced this fear into him. What did you do when you cared for him, poor man?
As well, we were talking earlier about abstract ideas and making them visible, and so we used the example of Isaac Newton. He's made visible invisible laws, invisible things that dictate our lives can be made visible through mathematical formulas.
Yeah.
Do you see? So it's bringing the invisible to light, and isn't that what we do with mediumship? That's what metaphysics really is. It's taking a principle like the principle of polarity or the principle of vibration, cause and effect. These are principles that are invisible but have tangible effects that demonstrate their invisible but real origin. And, this is mediumship of a different form. And it's shining a light on things that otherwise can't be seen.
Very good. Very good. Carol Stone, she asked, what is after or above platform work? It's not looking for something that's after or above, because, we do tend to bring in this, our own hierarchy items on this, and so, well, I do this, so I'm better than that person or whatever. It's not on that level whatsoever, but it's about going deeper into something. How can we make the invisible visible? Apple crumble. Apple crumble. I love apple crumble.
Oh, yeah.
I really love apple crumble. When I first started making apple crumble, and it was tinned apples and packet crumble topping. And then I thought, can do better. So I started making my own crumble. And then I started peeling apples and cooking apples. And then I was adding things to the apples, a bit of ginger, that's lovely. And then in the crumble topping, I'd start putting little bits of toffee in there. And that was lovely as well. So I'm started off with a basic premise. I'm going somewhere with this. So I'm the medium, I'm doing the platform work, I'm the basic apple crumble. But then there's got to be more to this.
Yeah.
We know there's more to
trying
this.
to find a depth and character that's lying within, and emerge. The thing is, I
hope that answers your question, Carol. It's apple crumble.
If there's a direction for spiritualists to go in, there doesn't seem to be one. So it's kind of evolved, and I suppose you've got the likes, like you've got all different organisations, and they all have a program of development. And then it's like, say, what comes next? That's a really good question. So what we end up seeing is, now I've been a medium for a while, I should really be running workshops and teaching. It's like a natural progression. So you go and find the experience and the qualifications for that. And then it's like, well, we've got to scale that up because, of course, that's what comes next. And I think what happens is, because we're all spiritual beings working with spirit, we suddenly find a blockage because we're not going that way. We don't know where spirit wants to take this, because I think they're personally leaving it in our hands in a way, because they can only work with what we're doing. They can give us the signs, but if we pull away or turn in the other direction because we don't want to go that way, then the movement has to go in the direction that we're all facing. And if someone then stands up and go, well, everyone follow me, I'm going that way, I think we'd all quite rightly say, well, who are you and why should we go your way?
Yeah.
So what are we going to do? So this is why it seems like we're a bit directionless, but at the same time, we're enjoying the journey. And I think once you've been working as a medium, you're trying to improve, but what are we improving? Because at the end of the day, we can't demand the spirit will become more clear. So how do we change what we're getting from them?
According to some of the advertising, yes, we can. We'll beat them into submission. You will give me a better message. Yeah, that's fascinating. That is fascinating. Even within, just as a scoop thing on the evidential mediumship, I was talking earlier about the difference between the European form of mediumship, and especially the what we called cold countries,
Scandinavia.
Scandinavian mediumship, because the evidence is very different. The Scandinavian countries, that was the example earlier on. I've got a man here who was a hunter, and somebody in the room will go, "Yeah, I know that," but that doesn't translate to the UK market so well. So it's learning the different nuances, but in learning those nuances, when you're working with these other countries, because you've got that awareness, that allows that information to come in. If you didn't register that fact, and this did actually happen, I was DMing, and it was a lady from Sweden who was the recipient, and I went, "Oh my God, they've taken the mickey out of me." I said, "Because this man's just walked up to the house and he's got a dead deer around his shoulders." She went, "Yeah, he's going hunting." To the Englishman, that was like, "What?"
Does the king know about this?
Yeah, what? What's going on? But it just allows that progression. It allows that translation between different cultural bases.
Yeah.
And that's just a little smidge of the things that we
Funny
can look
enough,
at.
I think there seems to be a interest in Japan that's growing for spiritualism, specifically what the Europeans call British spiritualism.
Yeah.
And it's funny to hear them say that, because it makes you, why just British? But it is very uniquely a British system that we've developed.
We've got plenty of people on from Europe tonight, and they refer to English mediumship.
And so it's like, I suppose, by just, Esmeralda made that suggestion, and all we did was turn the elements around. We didn't change anything. Just turned it around, and it gave for a very different and conducive energy.
Oh yeah,
but it's still nothing wrong with the services we're doing. It's just different, and it works.
Yeah, and it's got, the more we experiment. Every time we work with the spirit, we're experimenting to a degree. We're never going to get up there in that 100% certainty that A to B to C to D will happen, because of the number of different factors involved. Our health, our mental state of being, the energy where we're working, the energy we bring in, the energy the sitter brings in, the energy. There's so many variables that you're never going to get that consistency. So we can never sit on our laurels and just go, And I've seen demonstrators do this, go in very passe. How many are in the audience today? And it's like, well, it's a church, so there's a congregation. That's number one. Where else do I go with this? Anyway, I'll be Esmeralda. And she says, "We saw a wonderful medium on the 4-year class I did." See, that's another thing in Europe. They do 4-year classes, which is great. In the UK, you say 4 years. 4 years? You're joking? I want to know next week, otherwise you're a rubbish teacher. It's all your fault.
I suppose that gives a nice direction to go in.
Yeah.
It's giving you something to focus on as a goal without it being, it's a process of development. And it's like, you see a lot of people, and I understand it's 6-week courses. And there's a lot of 6-week courses because that's kind of the culture with online training. It's mirroring that because that's how it works. So, I do these for work all the time. You do these online 6-week courses to get a qualification. So it's modeling that because that's what's out there. It's in our culture. It's what works. And so we model it on that. But then what we're going to do? Because at least if we're comparing it to an industry where we produce something, the goods and services industry, then we're looking at spiritualism, and the goal for those is the bottom line. But the goal for spiritualism is more than just the bottom line. There's something more there. And so I suppose for people who want to go into education, and the Arthur Findlay College is this wonderful jewel in the crown of spiritualism. So it's become a goal, It's the place people want to go and get educated. It's the place people want to go and teach. So it's become, by default, this goal for spiritualism. And some people can follow that path and some people can't. And I saw there was a photo earlier, and there was 40% all new people going there for the first time. So you could see this great attraction. But then the rest of spiritualism doesn't look like the Arthur Findlay College. It's wonderful having it, but it's a bit like you're seeing it at its very best. I always remember there's a video of Gordon Higginson at Longton Church on a news program, and I remember someone saying, "Well, I've seen Gordon work, and he was much better than he was on that TV program." And so it just came to me. I thought, yes, but if he had demonstrated at his level on TV, then everyone who visited a church the next day is going to be expecting that. And so he might have just held back a little bit.
Well, I'm expecting that tomorrow.
Well, yeah.
Mister.
No, but you see what I mean. So that everyone who now visits a church is going to, he's managing expectations, if you know what I mean. I think very clever, the right way to approach it, because it reached an audience. It went on the news, and it's like, we have to manage expectations. Not every place that you can go and learn about spiritualism is going to be a residential course at the Arthur Findlay College, but we can bring that same level of education and tuition to the churches, to centres,
definitely,
because it's spreading out. So it acts as this brilliant sort of nerve centre where people from all around the country and world can go and then take that experience back and pass it on, as a legacy.
Thank you. And it holds up that banner as well to say, look, it can be done.
Yeah,
it's not a thought. It's not a perception. It's a reality. Look, it can be done. But Esmeralda goes on to say, the wonderful medium in the 4-year class, and she had already done the years and graduated, but she wanted to go back again and learn different things on the same course. Deep respect for this wonderful lady, and that touches very much on the energy that this evening started on about what do we miss. You said yourself about books. You can go back and read a book 10 times and you read 10 different books. We can move that model over to our own personal experiences working with spirit. How many demos have you done that are the same?
Oh,
apart from the ones where they booed you off the stage and chased you out of town. So,
I don't think I've ever regretted one, but some have been very difficult to get over.
Yeah, I've walked away from some, and on my way home I blamed everybody and everything else, and by the time I've got home I've gone, yeah, that was you just being arsey, Lawrence, so don't be arsey when you get up on platform. Simple as that. Cat Goddess, I mean, it's probably better to go the extra mile on things and have more quality than quantity, so I could understand where you're coming from on that, or what you mean. There's Elaine. Well said, Stephen. There you go. All right, happy now. He was hero worshipping you today, Elaine. Yes, no custard. No, vile. Belinda, lovely Belinda. She says, I'm not a platform medium, but I'm constantly evolving and pushing my limits of mediumship. I say to spirit, you lead, I'll follow. You lead, I'll follow. Not sure about that. It's just terminology. I always say, come on, let's party. I don't. There's no restriction there.
Yeah.
When I'm getting ready to work, so right, come on, let's party.
No, but it's that stepping into the unknown. You're a blank slate ready to be used as a canvas and be impressed. So I'll tell you, it's like I'm yours. I'll submit to how you work with me, and that's such a pure and innocent reaching out to spirit, and just different way of saying it. I'm ready for you to, and you're waiting for that image, that subtle impression to begin and develop.
Yeah, see, I'm not sure about that either. Am I looking at development and practice and mechanics? Maybe I need to look at as two separate things. The practice is standing on the platform where you are going, okay, come on, this party. But the mechanics is like in the circle environment and going, can we try this, please?
It's like we say,
can we try this? I'd like to try this.
After 15 years, I'm still trying not to ask a question, because even after all this time, you want to say something, but you're lacking the confidence.
Yeah.
You're worried they're going to say no, and it doesn't matter how many times you do it. It's still like, right, just go with what you're seeing. And 9 times out of 10, it's right. The one time they say no, you can let that haunt you into your grave if you want, but don't miss the 9 times out of 10 it was all right.
People who have sat with me in circles and groups will know this saying off by heart. You would not, would you? That is my anthem. Because I always say, when we do it, and after I do it, I still bugger up at times and go, would you? And I in my head go, no. Because it is that momentary, oh God, is this right? Because you get, another facet I've been looking at with mediumship is how much of a message do we'll find the technical term, which is eluding me, so I'll go for the common term. How much of a message do we bugger up? Because, all right, you grew up in South Africa, okay? So you're dead, all right? And you are communicating through me to somebody. Now, I'm going to have very little point of reference, not only to the culture, the climate, the way of life of a South African, but also the thinking.
Do you know what, Laurie? In all the years I've been in spiritualism, no medium has ever picked up where I'm from.
Yeah?
Like, not once.
Oh.
Not once. No one's ever picked up I'm from South Africa.
That's good.
Although all my family are. Do you know what I mean? It's so actually I've been waiting for that. It's never happened.
Yeah.
I got over it. The information has been fine. But yeah, funnily enough, no one has ever picked up that all my grandparents are all South African.
Yeah, because this I'm not making this fit, but this does sit with what I'm talking about how much we can bugger up communication, because you're giving me information to relay to the cat.
Yeah.
All right. What you're saying to me, I am then trying to turn that into a story that I understand. And that's where I think we sometimes really come a cropper. And especially if you don't look outside, going back to an earlier conversation about the Scandinavian countries and their predilection for shooting anything that's got 4 legs and lives in the snow, which is absolutely wonderful because that's their culture.
Well, South Africa, if it's got 4 legs and lives in sand.
But because that's not part of my essence, my makeup, I'm not relaying that truly, but I'm trying to make it make sense. So we end up twisting and convoluting things.
Oh, the thing is, so like you were saying, I'll let you lead, I'll follow in a sense. And I'm thinking when just last week, I think, or the other week, there was this in a congregation, and the communicator wanted to communicate that they were from a gypsy family, and I was struggling to get the word gypsy out of my mouth in case it came across as offensive. And the spirit was like, no, it's fine. It's the quickest way to describe it without going around the houses. But you're getting in the way of yourself, and it was fine. you know, I wasn't committing any horrible crime, but for some reason you were just so unsure if it was going to be accepted.
Yeah.
And of course it was,
Mm.
you know, and it made, because I went with it and I used the word she gave me, it opened the communication up more.
Yeah.
And I was more confident with what followed. And it is that leap of faith, but I can do it because of the experience I've got. In the early days, maybe not.
Yeah.
Maybe not, because I'm not quite so. I was happy on that little plateau in the early days, just not wanting to push the boundaries until I was confident. Just don't let that carry on, you know. After a year, how much have I grown in the last year? And if it's nothing, then see if there's a reason you don't want to grow, because you can be the only one holding yourself back. What's another thing that was said today that someone reminded me of a saying, that many people meet their destiny on the path they took to avoid it. And it's like, that's quite an interesting, I think we can all relate to that at some point.
Yes, very true. Very true. But it is fascinating, you know, again, this comes back to the topic nicely, what do we miss? And we don't know what we miss unless we go looking for it.
Yeah.
And I think that's sometimes an area that, as no matter what form your mediumship takes, I love that comment from Esmeralda there about the lady going back and doing the 4-year course all over again, because she's gone back to find out what she missed. And we started off today's workshop with me saying about we don't know what we don't know. And I love that saying, because it just says, it stops people coming in with pre-formulated ideas.
Well, I suppose there's the dynamic there where we've got an abundance of churches and centres and the Arthur Findlay College, so we can always choose somewhere else. They might be in an area where it's a little bit limited, so let me go back and revisit it, because they just don't have quite the choice. We have to go and venture on another one. So as a byproduct of that, it's made that course more valuable to that person, because the lack of choice maybe, but then it's going to open up more anyway. Like you said, just reading a book again, there's a chapter that didn't resonate with you before, but now you've had a little bit more life experience, all of a sudden this chapter sings to you, because now you've got an experience to relate to it.
When in my very early days, and my teacher said you really got to learn philosophy. So in my naivety, I'm looking for the book on philosophy. Where's the book that's going to give me all the answers? So I read and read and read, and I was going, that's rubbish. Nonsense. Oh, what a load of... But over the years, things would happen, your experience would grow, your knowledge would grow, your understanding would grow, and your mind often drifted back to some of these books saying, well, actually, Lawrence, if you accept that now, you can't dismiss what that said in that book, because it underpins each other. So, and was it Mark Stone's got a lovely story with Glenn Edwards. And apparently he was a bit of a bugger when they used to go out on the road and do tours and things. If he saw there was an open circle operating anywhere, he would go to them. And people were going, why the hell are you going to an open circle? He said, because it gives me a chance to unlearn the rubbish that I've put up. I thought, how good is that?
Do you know, I was lucky enough to be a key holder at the church. I go along to the open circle many years in. I'm in all sorts of other circles. I'm there mostly as a key holder, but I get to sit in there, and you see people come in with very raw experiences. They haven't learned any jargon. They haven't got a clue what a chakra is. And so they come fresh and a blank slate, just raw experience and a desire to know what that experience meant, without any predetermined ideas. No one's got to them yet, and they're giving them their version of what they think happened. And so that energy, when they go see a good medium or a medium, And I've had it when someone comes in without any expectations, just raw, pure experience, your energy picks up on it and works brilliantly with it, because it's proper spiritualism. It's raw. And so we had this healing circle on the last Sunday of every month, and just as we were packing up and about to leave, this lady turns up and said, "Oh, sorry, you've just missed it." She goes, "Oh no, yeah, I'll just come to ask a question if you don't mind." And there's just a few of us, and I didn't want to leave myself alone with this lady. Just she was the first time there, so a few of us stayed behind to talk to her. And our local hospital had just closed, and some of the buildings were going to be repurposed. And it was a hospital for people with mental health problems. And this one little lodge on the property was being turned into a little nursery during the day, because it was needed for the area. And this lady ran the play group, and it only been running for a couple of weeks. So she's come to this and said, "I just need to ask a question. The children are having conversations with people they say they all can see and they know the names of. Should I be worried?" I was like, "I'd be worried if the nature of it was worrying. But if they're not having any bad experiences, I would just politely ask the spirits to be nice, and when they're ready, move on." As you know, I think it's as long as there's nothing untoward coming from the children, then I think they're probably having a perfectly normal experience. You know, places seem to have a memory, but if anything was worrying you, then if something seemed off, but she said, "Actually, no, the children are all very happy. It worried me, but I suppose I'm projecting my worries onto them." And I never saw her again. I think they moved the nursery to somewhere else simply because this building had freed up, and in the meantime they were using it. But just for those few weeks, it kept the nursery school running, and then they moved out. So it was really interesting how she came in with no preconceived ideas, just worried about the kids, but open-minded enough to visit a spiritualist church and ask the questions. So although I don't know if she ever came back or might have visited a spiritualist service, but I think after talking to us, she felt better about it. Because, you know, was there any reason to be worried? Well, no. So happens all the time here. It's just a normal thing to us to communicate with the spirit world. And children are the same. They're very psychic.
I think when people, it's got to be that open-mindedness for somebody to come in the door, because again, what ruins our mediumship, what ruins our healing, what ruins our interactions with people is having those preconceived barriers in place, because we then blot out all the potential. But and we get it here, whenever I'm working downstairs in the church, I always leave the outer door open. And I can guarantee you, if I did that 4 days on the trot, 3 of those days, people would come in
I think
have a conversation.
All she needed to see was people who talked to the spirit world, so she could see that she looked around the room and it looked like familiar. You know, as she talked to us, we made sense, we seemed nice, and that put her mind at ease. That the people who apparently talk to the dead see it as perfectly normal and safe. That's good enough for me. I'm now going to worry less and just get back to it. He's right. There's no harm coming to these kids. And hopefully this will be the end of the communication, because I've done something. Because she might not be confident enough to have a chat with the spirit world to say, "Look, could you just let the kids," because their parents might not understand. And I suppose that's a conversation she had with the spirit world after she visited us. But just to see that it is very normal, every day, normal people do this all the time, her mind was put at rest because we presented ourselves well to her.
Exactly. And we didn't go all Hollywood.
We were welcoming. We weren't dismissed. Oh, sorry, you're a bit late. You'll have to go. We're just having,
God, yeah, don't.
that could have been very likely.
Well, no, we finished 5 minutes ago.
Yeah.
And that's it. The world ends now.
No,
we finished 5 minutes.
Do you want a cup of tea? We'll stay for another 20 minutes.
Yeah. No. It was 5 minutes. 5 minutes.
But that's all it needs, isn't it? And you kick yourself if you don't.
Yeah, very much. Roy, he says he'd love to watch the energy and the keenness of the up and coming mediums. Yeah, that should be there. But I do see time to time the fear's been installed into them before they then.
Yeah.
In their training and their guidance, and it's, you've got to get this right. You don't know what you're doing here. You're messing about, and it's like you're actually making people fearful of their mediumship. And if you didn't do that, that's going to reflect in their work.
Yeah, that like a single mistake is going to ruin everything.
Yeah.
It's like,
well, you didn't get that right, did you?
Be prepared for mistakes.
Yeah. So what?
Yeah.
Carol asks, what is the biggest or most common driver to head through the spiritualist church door these days? What's your thought?
I don't know, because from my personal experience, it wasn't propelled by the loss of a loved one or a particularly... It was a pretty dramatic experience. We haven't got enough time, and might need after the watershed maybe. But it's my path in was very different to most people's. So from my point of view, from working as a medium, it's usually a heavy loss. We lose lots of people, but some losses hit harder than others.
Yeah, I'm just going to very quickly interrupt you. Talking of losses, I've just noticed all the swimming pool lights have all gone out for some bizarre reason. We had an electric cut here the other day, so if we suddenly disappear, it's not them, it's them at the substation. Carry on.
Now, mind you might need to clarify that you live next door to a public swimming pool, and it's not your palatial jacuzzi outside.
The swimming pool light's gone off. And the hot tub.
First world problem.
And the outside bar. And the pizza oven.
Oh, that was really good pizza. No, I suppose, what is it we're expecting from our visit to a church once we're established and we've been, I think we get very pedestrian and everyday about it. Nothing wrong with that because it presents well. But, I love the fact that you can go to a church. Sometimes it could be, you see the same faces again. They've seen you 100 times, you've given them 100 messages, and they still come to see you. They're not really bothered about their messages. They don't even mind if you have a bad day and you haven't got a good talk. Those people are just drawn to come out to their church on a rainy Sunday evening when everything is telling them not to, yet they persevere, come along, and they can't quite tell you why. And so if you're an outsider coming along for the first time, and you see these people that will come week in, week out, because we've just got this desire to be part of it, to worship, to add our contribution, to be in harmony with the people in the room. Sometimes I suppose some people get a little bit addicted to it because that feeling, that connection, some people's lives are so hectic they don't get that otherwise.
Yeah.
And to just sit in that energy for a bit, and even though I was quite nervous today, the people on the course, I felt their energy really helped me, and I worked off their energy and it got me in a really nice place.
It's about 5 to 4. Yeah, that's a really nice observation. What is it that drives people to come to a spiritualist church? I'll tell you what should drive people to come to a spiritualist church, and it's not fantastic mediumship. It's knowledge. It's in our philosophy. It's talking about navigating that bloody world outside of the front door today. And let's face it, it's really not pretty.
Well, like
But how
today,
do we make sense of that?
I threw quite a lot of information today,
It's just tad.
and and I didn't expect everyone to just follow along with all of it. It was more than just me purging it. It was just a introduction to something to cover quite a lot pretty quickly, so that something will resonate with each person in the room, and it might not be quite spiritualism, but it complements spiritualism, and it's part of the greater spiritual community, the language and the jargon that we use, identifying where it came from, who is the source of this knowledge, like a lot of the jargon about ancient civilizations. Identify where it came from, and then you might get the bias behind it or by the origin. And with spiritualism, we, like with the 7 principles, we talked about how they were given from spirit through the mediumship of Emma Hardinge Britten to the movement of spiritualism, and then it was grounded by being adopted by the churches to take that energy and ground it, to complete the connection, complete the circuit. And so when we're coming to a church, I think unconsciously we're completing a circuit of input, process, output. We come along, we take in this input, we process it in our minds, and then we talk to our friends about it. I saw this medium the other night. He brought through this lady to this other lady, and there'll be some sort of something about that message that resonated with the person sitting in the audience, and they've input, process, output, and they go and express that to someone and say, wow, I went to a spiritualist church and I had this amazing thing. You should come along and be amazed with me, and this is how it spreads. And you can see that process. And like we're saying, if there's a goal in spiritualism, it ends up being a byproduct of experience. Like I was saying, no one's really directing it. So we're arriving at these new things through experimentation, through trying something new and different. And maybe the movement stagnated for a little bit, but it seems to be moving again.
Yeah.
Because I think people have got not bored, but they're going, so what is the goal? And they're looking for that. And so that's driving it.
Yeah. And we've got now these talks, this one and many others, that are actually starting to promote what is it? Not lateral thinking.
Critical thinking.
Critical thinking about things.
And I think also how to frame what you're saying. When you're just doing it naturally, you're just trying to express yourself. And I find people are never as articulate with their words as they mean to be. We feel limited by it.
Yeah.
So we never quite get it across how we're thinking. And that's why it's nice to have those little sayings, like the one about your destiny, because it frames it for you where you might be lost for words otherwise. So learning all these nice little things, they're more than just catchphrases, because sometimes they can fill in where you can't quite otherwise find the words. And, especially when we're talking about, especially talking about the etheric realms and the spirit world, they're trying to make the invisible visible.
This is true. And like, example of in evidential mediumship, so many times you hear the medium saying, oh, and they're telling you they love you, or they're passing you. We don't hear, oh, tell them I love you. It's that feeling, isn't it? It's that whoosh comes in, and you go, wow. Lovely Karen Martin. And sometimes a philosophy can be the message for everyone. Indeed, very, very much so. I mean, if we look at this, all right, this is Lawrence logic. I don't know if this stands up in this world. It does in my world, and that's fine. If we are having that communication from spirit simply and purely in that act of love, unasking, then would it not follow that advice, thoughts, feelings about the world that affects us, would that not also be there equally?
Well, I think
Over to you.
well, looking for a direction in spiritualism, I suppose, right? When I see you working, you naturally go into a teaching mode because you're not only giving the evidence, but sometimes you go, oh, and I'll do it sometimes as well. You go, oh, see, this is how mediumship works, because you try to think of an example, but you're in the middle of giving a message, and you might have a student, people around you in the room, and you're explaining to them how you're working in a way almost unconsciously, because you're so used to running courses and classes and circles that while you're giving the evidence, you're teaching as well. You're giving the evidence, but you're explaining how you're working in a very teaching, educational way. So people aren't just getting a message from you, they're getting the education of how you're getting the message. And I think for mediums who are getting onto the platform and they are beginning to give messages and they start to plateau because they feel safe, they gather experience and then naturally start teaching through their giving of a message. So I suppose if anyone's looking for development as a medium, that is it. It's building up those layers of experience so you become a teacher while you're giving a message to someone.
And if you go back in time and look at a lot of the greats, the pioneers that we always drag out of the cupboard every 5 minutes, I mean that lovingly, you know that. But they all follow a very similar path. They suddenly explode on the scene. They are suddenly this force majeure that sweeps through, that fills concert halls, comes on television, radio, online. I love it when people say, I'm just going in my studio. No, you're not. You're doing a Facebook Live. Come on, get off your pedestal, love. So there's this huge outpouring and this prominence. Then we go into the teaching mode as well, probably still on the cusp of the prominence within everybody's view of being, a marvelous medium, and also going into their teaching. But this is when then the demonstrations start to pull away and the private sittings start to pull away and the teaching goes on and probably goes better and probably gets more wider audience, but because that's not in the public lens, it's like they've faded away, but they haven't. They've just gone on this out of the limelight path and into the work path. Anyway, Stephen.
Lovely talk. That's gone quick, hasn't it?
It has. It's flown by. Thank you. Roy, philosophy, loaves and fishes. Everybody receives something. Yeah, should be. That should be to me. The philosophy to me is the cornerstone, the linchpin. But anyway, now I've said that, you're going to get upset with me tomorrow because I don't comment on how good your mediumship is. So I remember that from the last time you were here, so I won't do that again. Thank you, Stephen.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. I hope you've had a wonderful night, whether you're watching live on tonight. Thank you for joining us. If you're watching later on or listening to the podcast from this, thank you. Again, if there's points said and you don't agree with it, do you know what? That's great. There's no need to get huffy over it. It's just how life works. We debate things. So thank you. Remember, you can see Stephen working tomorrow. He'll be taking our divine service here at Poole, and that's live on coming out of our studio. No. Coming off from the security camera. That's live online at 11 a.m. GMT on our Facebook page and also on our YouTube channel. Just search PCSC. In the meantime, have a wonderful night. I don't know where you are, but we've had blue sky all day and it's been glorious to see the sun at last. Have a wonderful night, everybody. Thank you. Good night.
Good night.
This is where we've got to sit in, just do a fix.